Well, good morning, AEMC family. We're going to do things just slightly differently today. And I'm going to lead you in a song of worship before you listen to my message, and we'll close with a song as well. I've been thinking about this song this past week, written by Matt Redman, who wrote these words under different circumstances, but they certainly apply to us. When the music fades and all is stripped away, and I simply come, and you'll recognize the song as I begin to play and sing it, and feel free to join along with me wherever you are, and let's use this as a prayer as we begin today. When the music fades and all is stripped away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something that's of worth that will bless your heart. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made it, 'cause it's all about you. All about you, Jesus. King of endless worth, no one could express how much you deserve. Though I'm weak and poor, all I have is yours, every single breath. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made it, and it's all about you. All about you, Jesus. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, 'cause it's all about you. All about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made it, when it's all about you. All about you, Jesus. When the music fades and all is stripped away, and I simply come. Wanting to be someone else is a waste of the person you are. These words are attributed to Kurt Cobain, who sadly is no longer with us. He took his own life. He was one of the members, perhaps founding members of the band Nirvana. And sadly, Kurt wasted the person he was and was meant to be by his own suicide. But if you could be, having said that, if you could be someone else, who would that be? You know, when kids play street hockey, I'll be Gretzky, I'll be Lemieux, and I'm dating myself as I use those names of players whose numbers have been retired. But what do you admire or desire? If you want to be somebody else, what do you admire or desire that these people represent to you? Conversely, what do you not like? Perhaps about your own circumstances or your prospects that would make you want to be in someone else's shoes. Why is that? More specifically, what sort of gifts or calling do you wish you had but are pretty sure you don't have? Or what opportunities do you wish you had to shine and thus be even elevated, honored in the eyes of others? Have you ever secretly, or maybe not so secretly, resented someone that you perceive has been elevated and promoted higher than you, or finds things easier to come by than you, or who does not have to go through the things that you do? How often do we hear students who have to work hard for every mark, and in thinking about others, they say, oh, so-and-so, they never have to study, they hardly pick up the book. All they do is, and they don't even go to all the classes, and they ace the exams. Not fair, not fair. Not fair. What about him? That's the question that Peter asks in the last few verses of John's Gospel. What about him? Strange question to ask, it seems to me, right on the heels of affirming his love for Jesus and being restored to his commission. In the verses leading into what I want to look at today, we read these words, Simon, son of John. Third time Jesus says this, are you my friend? You can't bring yourself to say that you agape me, so are you my friend? Do you phileo me? Peter was upset that on this third time Jesus asked, are you my friend? Master, you know everything. You know that I'm your friend. Well then, said Jesus, feed my sheep. And so even on the strength of an imperfect and sometimes vacillating love, Jesus restores and affirms Peter's leadership before the others. Good enough for Peter, right? Good enough. Wow, what grace, what love. Oh, Lord, that's good enough for me. Jesus goes on to say some rather cryptic words to Peter. In verse 18, he says, I'm telling you the solemn truth. When you were young, you put on your own clothes and went about wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you'll stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you up and take you where you don't want to go. How do you think Peter understood these words? Sounds rather ominous. Sounds difficult. And we read in verse 19 that he said this, Jesus did, to indicate the sort of death by which Peter would bring glory to God. And we don't know whether Peter fully grasped the import of this, the meaning of this. Tradition has it that Peter was crucified upside down in Rome in the mid-60s, shortly after writing his epistles. Indeed, Peter's death brought God glory, but after Jesus had said this, he added, "Follow me, follow me." Well, yes, Lord. I surrender all. Where you lead me, I will follow. All of my ambitions, hopes, and plans, I surrender these into your hands. But, then Peter turned and saw following them the disciple that Jesus loved. And he says, "Master, what about him? What about him?" Now, why do you think that of all the group that was there, and there were 7 disciples plus Jesus present, whether anyone else was within earshot, we don't know. But why do you think that Peter asks this question about John in particular? Master, what about him? He's your favorite, isn't he? He's your special favorite, isn't he? Did Peter think that? Why would he be concerned to know what John's following of Jesus would look like and be like? I wonder if there was a little bit of residual resentment in Peter towards John. John, after all, along with his brother James, were the ones who came to Jesus, and one of the Gospels has it that they actually sent their mother to talk to Jesus on their behalf on one occasion. And the request was simply, when you come into the fullness of your reign, Jesus, can we sit on your right and on your left? And Jesus said, are you guys really up to this? Can you accept the baptism with which I will be baptized? Can you drink the kind of cup I'm going to drink? And very confidently, cockily, they reply, well, sure we can. What's so hard about that? And their request became known by the others, and there was resentment and chatter that Jesus had to put a lid on. Jesus had to address it and talk to the group of disciples about what constituted real leadership and real greatness. And he affirmed and said, and had they even yet gotten it, that if you would be great, you must become the servant of all. You must take the place of a servant, even a slave. It's probably where we get the idea and the notion of servant leadership. And I wonder, as this business about, and it's very specific, and when I see detail like this, I'm always interested in knowing why this detail. In fact, John being the author, why would John
include this detail about himself. He says, the disciple that Jesus loved, this was the disciple who had leaned back against Jesus' chest at the supper and had asked, Master, who is it that's going to betray you? I wonder why that detail was necessary to include. What did John have in mind? Because we have this question coming from Peter. Master, what about him? And Jesus' response was, if it's my intention that he should remain here until I come, what's that got to do with you? You must follow me. So, we read, the rumor went around. The Christian family, the Christian community, the church. And it spread to the point that it seems John is seeing a need right now to set the record straight about this particular rumor that went around the Christian community that this disciple would not die. What about him? Rumor has it. Not only is he your favorite, but he doesn't even have to die like the rest of us dogs. He's going to remain until you return. What a sweet deal. Special favor. Now, is this a benign rumor that really doesn't matter one way or another? Did it really matter if people thought that John would not die and that he would be present when Jesus came? Does it really matter what people thought one way or another? And a further question, you got to wonder how this rumor even got started. I mean, who was present? We know of 7 disciples. So, who got it going? And did it start off, hey, did you hear that Jesus said, if it's my intention that he remain until I return, what is that to you? And as it spread, it became, it is my intention that he remain till I return. Who morphed it from what Jesus actually said into what he didn't say? But then again, does it really matter? Are rumors benign? Someone put it this way, beware of half-truths. You may have gotten hold of the wrong half. And as we think of the rumors that abound at a time such as this, have you perhaps heard, read, or perhaps even spread verbally or through Facebook or Twitter some of these rumors that are circulating? Well, we all know that it's because of G5, or 5G rather. It's got COVID going. Somehow, whatever 5G has to do with it, it beats me. But there are people very convinced that this is so, and all kinds of things spreading around. Rumors about how effective hydroxychloroquine is. There's even a prominent politician you may have heard of who says that he is taking it now. Very interesting. Never mind the studies that have been done calling into question either its effectiveness and its benefit, and perhaps alerting people to its definite downsides and risks. Well, where do you get your facts? Where do people get their facts? And in these days of polarizing and competing narratives about what is true or what is hyped up or what is even a hoax, have you given sufficient thought to what it means to professionally and appropriately fact-check these things? And are some of these rumors, there was a rumor 3 years ago about a pizza shop in Washington, which was said to be ground zero for a child prostitution ring, and that even Hillary Clinton and company were back of it all. And some dude drove all the way from North Carolina, brought his gun, and started shooting up the place. Friends, rumors, some of them are just downright dangerous, not merely foolish. Are there very real consequences to some of the rumors that spread personally or in community or in the church? Are they merely matters of benign opinion, or could they have very real and unfortunate consequences? What about this one? What impact do you think it would have had on John and those who listened to him, those who spent time with him, if he wouldn't die? Would he be kind of inappropriately held up as a kind of an icon, someone almost to be worshipped? Because he was Jesus' special favorite. Jesus had conferred such favor on him. And what impact would that have on John's capacity to be a servant leader, to come alongside as one of the group, if he was held up in an inappropriate way? For whatever reason, John saw the need to set the record straight. As he writes, but Jesus did not say he wouldn't die. What he said rather was this: if it's my intention that he should remain here until I come, what's that got to do with you? Pay attention to what Jesus actually says. No, John was not Jesus' golden boy who would never be troubled by adversity. And if people thought that were so, and then adversity came, and trouble came, and even death came, what would that do to the faith of a community who believed that this one would never die, and then he does? And what happens to their faith? Rumors are not benign. We need facts, evidence-based fact, revelation, evidence-based fact, not rumor, not innuendo, not fake news, not conspiracy theories. Pay attention to what Jesus actually says. And he said, if it's my intention that he should remain here until I come, what's that got to do with you, Peter? What's that got to do with you? You must follow me. You must follow me as I call you to follow me, with your particular mandate and living out your calling and expressing your gifts, powered by the love that you have affirmed that you have for me. And with that love, the growth of character that increases your capacity to love as I love. Peter, John's no business of yours. I'm your business. You must follow me. You follow me and leave John to me. We need to stop comparing our walk with that of others and just follow Jesus. Just follow Jesus. Verse 24 says, this is the disciple who is giving evidence about these things and who wrote them down. And we know that his evidence is true. We know that his evidence is true. Who is the we? I suspect the we is the community that John led, the community of a church or churches in the vicinity of Ephesus near the end of his life. We know that his evidence is true. Now, how did they know that John's evidence was true? How did they know? Well, they knew John. They knew him to be one in whom the Spirit of God lived and moved and gave John his impetus, his thrust, his capacity to love and serve and bear witness to the Jesus that he was eyewitness to. John was an eyewitness of the things he reports. And they said, we know, we trust John. He is credible. He is full of the grace and the goodness and the love of Jesus, his character, and the way he moves and serves among us add credibility to the words that he has shared. And we know that his evidence is true, and we know that the rumors that have circulated about him are in fact untrue. They are not helpful. They are not at all helpful. And we need to be people not driven by rumor, but driven by truth that is based in evidence and credibility of those who share it. And John is at the top of the class as he has grown in grace and in the knowledge and the capacity to be like Jesus among us. And we trust him. We will not give way to rumors. In the absence, friends, of clear and credible evidence, rumors abounded then about John and indeed about Jesus, as is evidenced by some of the non-canonical gospels that were being produced around that time and on into the 2nd century. And as you compare a document, say, like the Gospel of Thomas, which has Jesus saying some downright outrageous things that do not line up with the Jesus that John was eyewitness to and who gave his evidence, rumors abound in the absence of truth and people who are willing to live in the truth. And we need to do that. They needed to do that then. We continue to need to be people of truth and not of conspiracy theories and rumors with no foundation. We need to be people of truth, rooted in evidence and supported by the character of those who share it. We know his evidence is true. And it was clear to this group who knew him that John was not just some kind of special favorite who would not die, but he was a fellow follower, and his following of Jesus got him exile at the end of his life. In Revelation 1, we read these words, I, John, your brother and your partner in the suffering, in the kingdom, and in the patient endurance that is in Jesus, was on the island called Patmos because of the word of God and the testimony of Jesus. This is where John's ministry, John's service, John's following of Jesus faithfully, this is where it got him. Was it worth it all, John? Was it worth it all? And to that, John would no doubt resoundingly cry out, yes and amen. It is worth it to follow Jesus and be counted as one who is privileged, yes, privileged, to suffer with him, and as Paul said, not only participate then in his resurrection, but in his sufferings, being made conformable to Jesus in his suffering and death. Yes, it's worth it to follow Jesus. Now, what about you? What about you? Simply, as we are about to close, simply this: pay attention to what Jesus actually says to you. To you. He is your way. He is your truth. He is your life. And He has gifted and called you to serve in a way which is entirely you. And as you live it out, you become gloriously and fully alive. St. Irenaeus said that the glory of God is a human being fully alive in the spirit and character and love of Christ, serving as Jesus did in the way He calls you, not somebody else. Beware of what you wish for. If you would rather be someone else with their gifts and calling and opportunities, because with great calling comes great suffering. John on Patmos. Peter, as he would die in Rome as a martyr, crucified, tradition has it, upside down. Or Paul and his thorn in the flesh. Paul was granted marvelous and incredible revelations and visions, he says, of the third heaven. And he heard things, he said, which are not permitted that I should utter. And then he says, because of the surpassing greatness of these revelations, and in order to keep me from becoming unduly enamored with myself, I was given a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to humble me, to keep my feet, as it were, on the ground. And when I asked that the Lord remove it, 3 times I asked, I heard Jesus say to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength will be made perfect in and through your weakness. And Paul's response is, therefore I will rejoice in all of this. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Pay attention to what Jesus actually says to you and for you. And as you follow Him, depending on His Spirit for your journey, seeking to be those who understand that Jesus has called you to bless others and invite them to follow Him, and as you learn what it is to become like Jesus in your character and attitudes and behaviors, as you love others and love God, as you learn His teachings, as you help others to become growing and reproducing followers of Jesus, as you take part in the community of followers of Jesus who are there to support and encourage you. Pay attention to what Jesus says to you, and then you follow Jesus and leave others to Him. Except that you will support and encourage them as they walk out their gifts and calling, and together may we bring much glory and honor to our God in these days in which we find ourselves. What about you? Follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. And as we close today, let's affirm our following, however faltering and vacillating that may be. Let's, as we open our hearts to Him, let's express at least the aspiration that Jesus, all for Jesus, all I am and have, all for Jesus, all my hopes and dreams, ambitions, plans, I surrender them into your hands. Worship with me.
Let's reaffirm our commitment, even if it's a commitment based on less than perfect love, less than perfect obedience over the course of time. Let's with full heart aspiration, nonetheless, declare that we are his followers and that we will lay aside and surrender all that we may serve him with all of our hearts, our minds, and our strength. Jesus, all for Jesus, all I am and ever hope to be. Jesus, all for Jesus, all I am and have, and ever hope to be. All of my ambitions, hopes, and plans, I surrender these into your hand. All of my ambitions, hopes, and plans, I surrender these into your hand. For it's only in your will that I am free. For it's only in your will that I am free. All of my ambitions, hopes, and plans, I surrender these into your hand. All of my ambitions, hopes,